What is up, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of Father Dynasty. I am your fatherly host, Chew, here in the manhole, here to talk a little fatherhood, fantasy football, and everything in between. And with me today is a very special guest. If you ask him for his nickname in high school, strap in for a wild ride. And that is, in fact, his nickname back in high school. Follow him on Twitter at TheFantasyENG and check him out as the co-host of the Tackle Dummies podcast, as well as a writer over at the Fantasy Footballers, Jeff Greenwood. Jeff, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I of course, see you representing Tackle Dummies pod right there in the hat, so love to see it.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a hat that sometimes I'll wear in public. So for people that are just listening, it says Tackle Dummy. And sometimes I'll wear it in public and people look at me funny and just kind of laugh. And I'm like, what's your problem, dude? And it's just me being an idiot.
It's a great talking point. I was going to say, I think I've yet to establish hat merch for Father Dynasty. Obviously, I have a little shirt here, but I was wearing, I think it was a football guy's hat a couple of times. I go to the grocery store and people just looked at me very odd. They were like, yeah, I know Nike and Adidas. Not really sure with like the smiley face thing. What's that about? So
I have to say, too, I saw someone, you were posting a picture of someone in a T-shirt with that logo that you made. That's a great logo. As a father and a fan of football, that's simple, elegant, very well done.
I sincerely appreciate that. And yeah, I guess probably that was a great way to plug that for me without me even doing it. Yeah, I traded the 101, one of the first Father Dynasty shirts out there. So, of course, get it if you want to. Well, Jeff, I have a keep trade cut unique to you. Are you ready for it?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. So, keep trade cut, of course, the fantasy football tool. Some people love, some people absolutely hate. But what we do on here is everyone gets a couple of topics unique to them. Keep trade cut, of course, they keep one, which is the one they like the most or think is the best. Cut, of course, third, think is the worst, and second being trade. So the first one we've got here is, as I referenced in your intro here, back in high school. So back in high school or back in college, you have a number of nicknames per your Twitter, and just coming through three, you know, I could have made this a keep trade cut, keep cut. I could have done a very long one here, but that's what she said. The three I've got are 45 seconds, 0.09 inches, and arguably my favorite, cream first. So what do you got?
I love this question. I've got to keep cream first. I'm with you. Yep. There's something beautiful about an uncomfortable comment, you know, and when you have people that get the joke, I love it. So cream first. I've got to do that. Then I'd say I have to trade 45 seconds. Only because that was I had commented, I think that might have been like a Calvin Ridley tweet, or I forget who I commented it on, but they said something about 45 seconds. I said that was my nickname in high school. And someone came under and was like, I wouldn't have given that up over anything. That's crazy. And I love when people get riled up if they don't quite understand the scenario. So I have to go with the 45 seconds. And the 0.09 inches, I like it, but I'm going to have to cut that one compared to the others.
I understand. Yeah, I think yeah, I joke with my wife, and honestly, my wife, as she herself jokes, which I don't love to hear, that she has the mind of a 13-year-old boy, which I remind her, if she says that to other people, that reflects poorly on me, if I, you know, our relationship and everything. But, you know, both of us are very, you know, no matter what setting we're in, you know, whether it be maybe a formal occasion or you go into a nice dinner, if that's what she said or something like that comes up, it's just going to be said. So, yeah.
I love it. That's my wife and I are the same. It's specific, like for us, that's what she said, same format as you alluded to. You know, it's that was my nickname in high school or college, depending on if it's going to be weird if it's high school. And but it always has to be a self-deprecating thing. You know, like when we say it, it's like, because you like our thing is like you want to make it feel a little uncomfortable where someone's like, yep, I don't really know how to respond to that. You know, and you get some chuckles sometimes, you get some weird looks other times. But it sounds like your wife and you are very similar to me and my wife. I love it. Absolutely.
And I like that you point out, if you say it seriously enough, you're kind of just gauging the crowd of like, who understands me and who doesn't.
It's perfect.
Yeah. Well, we were talking a little bit before we hopped on the pod here, and I know you, of course, are a New Englander. And the second topic here is the Patriot, and not referring to the Mel Gibson movie. It's a classic. But referring, of course, to your team, the New England Patriots. So we've got a couple of free agent acquisitions for the Patriots here that are fantasy relevant. Just asking you to keep trade cut here. So we've got Juju Smith-Schuster, because he's better than Jacoby Myers apparently. Mike Gesicki, psyched about that one, and James Robinson. So what do you got here?
So great question. I'll start in order that you gave. Juju Smith-Schuster, loved him when he was on the Steelers. He had the season in 2018 with AB, where he finished as a top 10 wide receiver, ton of targets, slot guy. I really like him. He's declined in terms of production. I expect him to do better in Kansas City personally, but all I have to say is he's my TikTok boy now. All right, he's our TikTok boy. There was that feud he had with AJ Brown. It was funny because he got the same contract. He was identical to Jacoby Myers. I love Jacoby Myers. I did not expect him to do that well when he got drafted as a rookie. But Juju, I'm okay. I'll gamble on him in some early best ball drafts on underdog, stuff like that. I'm excited for him. I do to me, it's similar to the Jacoby Myers. So to me, it's it would have been kind of cool to keep Jacoby Myers. Mm-hmm. The fact that I said that means I'm going to eat my words when he blows up this season. The next guy, Mike Gesicki, I like him. I think he's a good addition. We got rid of Jonnu, brought in Gesicki. We had the two tight end set last season. I think Gesicki's a better receiver. I mean, I did expect Jonnu to do pretty well, especially with a rookie quarterback looking for a big target. I'm excited about Gesicki. He's a guy that I'm targeting a lot in best ball drafts because he's tight end 15, or I don't even remember what it is, but it's so late that to me, I'm he had the Hunter Henry season 2 seasons ago where he scored 10 touchdowns. That could be Gesicki for the Patriots this season. And James Robinson, I did not expect him to come back and do well on the Jaguars when he returned. And he produced. He did better than I thought he should have with the injury he had. So to me, I love Ramondre Stevenson. I think he's a stud. But the Patriots spread the ball around. So to me, James Robinson, I keep going back to this best ball underdog draft because I had done a few of them this week, first time dipping into the offseason. But Robinson is a guy that I'm grabbing in a lot of drafts because he's undrafted. You throw him on your team. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets 6 touchdowns and you can be a usable guy. I like him in redraft too or Dynasty because he's cheap. He's viewed as an injury-prone guy. Pretty good, chance that he will never get back to his form from a year and a half ago. But I like him. What are your thoughts on those guys?
Yeah, I love that the viewpoint is predominantly through best ball because I know it really is ramping up now with all these degenerates out there, including myself, really just want something to feel right now, and that is best ball. Yeah, when I had seen the Juju signing, I was a bit confused, seeing Jacoby Myers, exit stage left and go to Las Vegas, but I want to believe that Juju's going to do better than Jacoby Myers, but I don't know if it's going to be tremendously better. So I think that may end up being a wash there. Mike Gesicki, between he and Dalton Schultz, of course, going to Houston, hopefully he supports that rookie quarterback, but I was so excited to see the top 2 tight ends in that free agent class, see where they're going to go, because Mike Gesicki was unbelievably criminally underutilized in Miami his last couple of years, or I guess most of the last year under the new system. And I understand why. I mean, he didn't really fit the system of what they do. He's by no means a George Kittle in the sense of his blocking prowess. He doesn't have that. But he is so athletic, such a field stretcher. And I really do think that, if they're going to run 2 tight end sets and Hunter Henry be, the more traditional, he's able to block, but he's also a tremendous pass catcher as well. I don't think, Mike Gesicki can almost be viewed as he's more of a wide receiver addition than he's a tight end addition.
Agreed.
And I think that's going to be huge for hopefully Mac Jones' development, maybe Bailey Zappi, maybe a third guy we want to throw in there. I don't know. James Robinson, I mean, Damian Harris I thought was a huge guy in free agency that someone was going to be able to pick up for once it got rolling pretty cheap. It seemed like a lot of the free agent running backs, no one was getting much respect money-wise, but James Robinson, grabbing onto a backfield that it's just a rotation. And I mean, he's going to get his shot. Yeah, like you said in the beginning of the offseason or the beginning of the season for the Jags, he showed he's doing okay, and I think he'll have enough touches to be dangerous, like you said, especially in best ball.
I love it.
Yep. So, well, we've talked, a little high school, a little Patriots, but jumping over to a little pop culture. So the bonus one here, my wife and I have since reclaimed our basement from our son. So he's now 4, going on 5 this November. Before that, it was basically just, we bought the house about 2 years ago. We just let him have the basement, let his toys be around, whatever. We've now since scooted all that out, put in a pool table, dartboard, foosball table, and all that, all the fun stuff.
I love it.
But dangerous for him, so he should not be in there. But then my wife had the brilliant idea in terms of a decoration of putting movie posters. So we have 7 movie posters. I got 4, she got 3. If there was 4 and 4, we would have done that, but she gave me the 4th, so I appreciated it. The 4 I picked: Anchorman, Boondock Saints, Jaws, and Goldfinger. And then the 3 that she picked, slightly different: Pretty Woman, Harry Potter, I think the 5th one, and Mean Girls. So if you had 3 movie posters, any 3 that you could pick, and your wife would not veto, you get to pick them and they get to stay up forever, what would be your 3?
That's a great question. And to buy myself a little time, I like the Boondock Saints a lot. And I like Mean Girls a lot. Mean Girls is an underrated movie.
Yep.
That's great. So movie related, I'd have to go. Let's think about this. I am a sucker for a chick flick. I'm going to go 500 Days of Summer.
Nice.
Little chicky. That's cool with me. I thought it was a cool movie. I like that a lot. I'm going to go 500 Days of Summer. I'm going to go, let's see, Remember the Titans is number 2.
Tremendous. Yep.
One of the greatest movies of all time. Denzel, one of my favorite actors. That movie, it gives you the chills every single time you watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome movie. And then for number 3, I'm going to give a very specific scene. Have you seen the movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
Love that movie.
Yeah. So it's that movie, and specifically the line where what's the guy? I forget. Is it Jason Sudeikis? Is that his name? Or am I mixing him up with someone else?
Jason Segel,
Jason Segel.
Yeah.
So Jason Segel, when he comes, or he's at the front desk with Mila Kunis, and then Kristen Bell comes in, and he's like, she's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "I came here to murder you." That is my favorite line of all time, and I say that, and a lot of times people don't get the reference, and then I'm just creepy. But that is like an all-time line. So that would be my 3 for movie posters.
Oh, I love those selections. Remember the Titans. Now that I'm kind of just going back in my memory, that may be the most selected one of any of them, but I don't think anyone's picked Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and that's one of my favorites. So I love that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What are some other common ones for you that you're getting for answers?
I've gotten other ones that are maybe more just like classic comedy. I've gotten Wedding Crashers, so some along those lines. I think another comedy one, probably like The Hangover. Whether it be 1 or 2 or 3, I don't know. I think they're all probably the same poster. What are other sports ones? I don't remember. The Titans is the only one that sticks out to me as a sports one, only because it's football. It's also just, I feel like even if you don't like football, you like Remember the Titans. That's just a great movie.
The Replacements is another good football movie. I don't know if you saw that. Keanu Reeves way back.
Yeah, I had a guest, his Steve Falco. So the part of his intro was that he has no relation to Shane Falco. So hopefully people understood that reference. I'm not sure, but
that's awesome. I love it.
Love it. Well, getting into some questions here. I know talking a little fatherhood and everything like that. I know that I first stumbled upon you just seeing some things on Twitter. Of course, your tremendous sense of humor and the tremendous amount of people not understanding it, which makes it way better. But also, how open you are. Talking about, you do mention that you have a child with special needs, your daughter, and talking about the rare genetic disorder. I believe I'm pronouncing it correctly. Is it Barrett's or Winter syndrome?
Yes, sir.
Winter syndrome.
Yep.
And another tweet that I had seen kind of referencing that, in October 2021, you said you had a parent-teacher conference, and you said your son's teacher said he's always keeping an eye on and looking out for his younger sister. Aside from I'm not crying, you're crying right now, how has that process been, with you and your family collectively kind of navigating that, something that I'm sure was new for everyone, and it being a very rare thing that I guess even a lot of people don't have any idea about?
Yeah, so that it's a great question, and I appreciate you bringing it up. I try to be open about it, and I've developed some fun relationships and cool relationships beyond just Twitter by talking about it and connecting with other people. So we kind of, so we have 3 kids, and my daughter that has Braids or Winter syndrome is the middle one. And we had some ideas that there were some things we wanted to get checked out after she was born, and it was a long process of kind of waiting kind of a full year from after the point we identified that there was something that might be unique, I guess, about who she is, until we got the diagnosis. And it was actually a very funny story. I say that I just tweeted earlier today, I hate it when people say very funny story, because you should be the judge of that. And then here I am contradicting myself. But anyway,
it's a funny story.
So we had an appointment with one of the best hospitals in the world in Boston to find out her diagnosis, and learn more about what that means and what we should do for next steps. And there was a lot of anticipation. She was about 1 year old. We're driving to the hospital, and it was me, my wife, and my daughter. And all of a sudden, my wife starts throwing up, and she's sick. And I was like, "You want me to turn around?" She goes, "We're not missing this appointment. We're going. We'll figure it out." So she's got like a bucket back there, whatever. We're going. We're getting there. We drive. It takes us about an hour, 15 minutes, hour 20. We pull into the parking lot. As we're pulling in, there's tension. It's just like, what do we do? Or maybe you stay in the car. I don't know. And then my daughter starts puking. And I just pull into a parking spot. I stop. And I realize 2 things. 1, we're not going to the hospital today. And 2, I'm going to start puking. It's just a matter of time. So we turn around, and we're like, this is our nightmare, but we're going to laugh about this later. We're driving home, and we got like 20 minutes to go, and I start feeling sick. And we're like, it's just like you had all this anticipation about this day and all this stuff. And so we all ended up sick that night. But anyway, that was like a kind of a microcosm of what the process has been like, where there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of ups, a lot of downs. And you're kind of learning along the way. The biggest thing for us is when she was diagnosed, there were about 50 people in the world ever that were diagnosed as this. Now, that's a very different stat than how many people have had it, right? Because it has to do with, can you diagnose that person, all that stuff. There's a very wide ranges of outcomes for this disorder, from having seizures multiple times a day, every day of their life, needing full assistance, to being somewhat functional and independent as an adult. So a lot of it's like, where do we stand? And there's a lot of unanswered questions right now. The good news is she's the sweetest kid in the world. She's always happy. She's really, really, really sweet, and she's so special. Everybody is drawn to her, and so she's doing very well. So she has some health, challenges and developmental challenges. Overall, she's doing great. Her siblings. One of the things I think people in that situation recognize that might not be super apparent is, I worry. Maybe worry is not the right word. I think about the impact on my other kids as much as on her, because why does she get to go to the doctors all the time? What's in Boston? Can I go to Boston? All this stuff. So that's a little tough. But the cool thing that you referenced, and my point here, when my son's teacher told us that he looks out for her and everything on the playground, I was crying so much. I think I would imagine that based on, talking to you a little bit, I know for me, I never really used to be a crier. I cry a lot as a parent. It happens. You just feel these emotional things, and it's good. It's fine. It's not bad, and a lot of times happy tears, all that stuff. So we have a really, interesting, unique perspective on life, and trying to make positives out of things has been really cool. So it's been a challenge, a lot of stress, a lot of impact on work. Having to go all these appointments, worrying about what's going to happen next. What are the next steps? Is she going to be independent as an adult? A lot of questions we don't have answers to. I'm going on and on and on, kind of going all over the place. But all in all, I think you got to, whatever challenges you have in life, many people have far worse challenges that I'll ever know. Trying to find the good and appreciate, the benefits that come out of that, I think is really important.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that certainly, in and of itself, how you guys are kind of tackling it is, I mean, I feel like the best perspective you possibly can have on it, because it's not just that. It's, anything that either comes from that or maybe any hurdle that you may run into completely independent of that.
Mm.
It's almost kind of giving you the chance to say, we can figure this out. We're a family. We've got it.
Yeah.
So that's incredible.
Very well said.
And say not just in terms of that, but just, you know, all your kids, just your process as a whole for parenting. What would you say is the most rewarding thing about parenting, aside from the crying, obviously? Because I'm with you on that one. I'll sometimes even watch things not related to my kid, and I'm like, but if that was my kid, I'm not crying.
Yeah. Absolutely. So for me, I think the most rewarding things are, you know, there's really two things I think that stand out this week in particular. It's one, when you get that rush of emotions when you see them. My kids are young like yours. I've got 3, 5, 6. And when they see you, and they get that rush of emotion like, Daddy or Mommy, you know, like that is such a good feeling. You forget everything that happened in that day. That is just like an amazing, pure feeling. I love that. Another thing is, to me recently, it's like whenever you see your kid develop a little bit of a passion, and whatever that may be, you know, like we've got our kids in all sorts of sports and activities. I don't care if they play sports. I want them to do something, you know, whatever that may be. So we're like, let's throw a lot of stuff at them. And when you see them start to latch on to something and you see a little bit of their, you know, personality, to me, I just, it's really cool. I feel like as a parent, I'm sure a lot of people feel this way too, is like, I care a lot less about myself. It's really like you kind of live vicariously through your kids. Yeah. Well, what's your answer? What do you think are some of the most, I guess, rewarding things about parenting?
Yeah, I can definitely echo that sentiment of that pure joy where, you know, it's almost like, you know, their lack of awareness of like, you know, they're not kind of worried about like, oh, is this too loud? Like, you know, is this the right place to do that? It's like, I see you. I'm excited to see you. Or just like, if it's like a nickname, like if it's like the dada, if it's like some nonsense word that's not like really a word, but it's like, you know, they're talking to you, like just that blind, just like they tune everything else out. And it's just you, like just those little moments where it's like, I'm able to look back at the end of the day and just be like, yeah, there was ups, there was downs, that kind of thing. But it's just having that time, whether it was a minute, 10 minutes, getting to go do something new. You mentioned sports. I was getting my son into soccer a little bit. We're actually just about to get him into t-ball, and somewhat surprisingly, his coordination is traditionally questionable at best, but somehow he's able to hit a ball out of the air. And
Wow.
because we got a tee, which is a pretty nice tee, and then it got broken. I'm not entirely sure, like not snapped in half. It did just stop working. Long story. And so before we got the other one coming in from Amazon, we're like, well, I mean, you know, we have the balls, we have the bat, whatever. So my wife was just tossing him and balls, and he was able to hit it out of the air. And I'm like, hold on, so we can just skip t-ball, right? But like just those
That's
little moments where it's
amazing.
just like, yeah. And I was horrible at baseball, so like, but my thought wasn't, I'm horrible at baseball. How am I going to be able to help him learn? I'm just like, I need to figure out everything I can about how to play better so I can get him better, because if he likes it, I want him to, you know, play it as long as he wants. If he decides to give it up, that's okay. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, in terms of you know, I know as you mentioned, you know, a lot of things going on. You know, it's work, it's family. You of course have your podcast, you have your writing, and I'm sure so much more. How do you kind of balance everything? I know it's always not just like it's called work life, but I mean, I almost feel like that's even too simplified. Like, how do you just balance everything?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I tend to be pretty good at compartmentalizing things. So it's like work day's over. And recently it's taken me a little more time to transition into like Dad Jeff or whatever. But it's kind of getting into those other states of mind where you're focusing on something that you're passionate about. So for me, like I love writing. And I used to write for the Fantasy Footballers like 2 articles a week. Actually, I had one article I was supposed to be doing. This is like a few years back, and I just started submitting this trade article series. I didn't ask for permission. No one asked me to do it. I just wanted to do it, and I felt like making kind of my own path. So that was a lot of, you know, I guess props to my wife for saying like, you know, I'll just go off and do my writing and she'll, you know, do whatever and just kind of give me that time.
Mm.
But it's really that. It's really like the things that you end up doing, just like you. I'm sure you feel the same way. Is like when you have a passion for something, it doesn't feel like busy. And I think another thing for me is I don't really see like friends that often. It's just family time, you know, which is great. I mean, that's what we want to do. But because of that, you know, having less of like a social life or whatever, finding these other things like podcasting and writing. I say I don't see my friends. I see my like one of my best friends, CCAS, who's my Tackle Dummies co-host. So that was part of the reason why I got into doing a podcast. Actually, was to have an excuse to hang out with my friend once every week or every couple of weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I completely echo that sentiment in terms of that was kind of the reason of starting this in the first place. I have two of my buddies who have been the most frequent flyers on the podcast, at least. We have group text talking about Dynasty football just at all times. But you know, it's not just that; it's life. It's just catching up. It's just seeing how everything's going on. So, but that was a big piece of it. Of like, you know, as people, you know, growing up, having families or moving or jobs, you know, it's not as easy as saying, "Oh, we go to high school together," or we go to college together. I'll see you after this class. I mean, I have work, I have family. It's like you have to make that conscious effort to catch up. And not saying that it required a podcast to do that, but it's a good opportunity to be like, come on, we'll hang out, we'll talk. It's loose, it's whatever. And in terms of the writing, I tremendously admire people, you know, with their writing abilities. I'm just jumping into it now, and I always joke to my wife, this is more reading than writing, but she always asks, like, I'll use certain words that probably make not a tremendous amount, like they're used correctly, but don't make a tremendous amount of sense to be used in certain sentences. She's like, where did you learn these words? And I was like, I mean, probably just like rap music and movies. That's all I really did when I was younger. But because she was like, you don't read, and I was like, yeah. I mean, I basically joked that like the only thing I read is the back of a cereal box. But that's why I guess I never thought of writing. But I mean, in the fantasy space, writing is such a huge component of, you know, getting to know people, kind of flexing those muscles, and being a part of different websites and different groups. So yeah. And how long have you been writing?
I started writing, let's see, it's 2023, maybe like 2018 for the fantasy football or something like that. So it's been a while, and I've had ebbs and flows. Like this past year, I wrote a little bit less than I had in years past. Life gets busy. But yeah, no, I enjoy doing it, and I like to sometimes write intros that have nothing to do with fantasy football. So it's like fun to write about fantasy football, and then you get to insert whatever you want at the intro. I saw your article that was just released on Going for Two about quarterbacks being king in Superflex. And this great article, first off, very well done.
I sincerely appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. But the most important thing, which is going to be dumb because it's coming from me, I appreciate the reference to Teddy Two Gloves. Yeah, it's just a great nickname. I love Teddy Bridgewater, but throwing Teddy Two Gloves, if typing that out, just feels good.
It's, first of all, I sincerely appreciate that, and second of all, if my articles don't have some nonsensical nickname reference or possibly some pop culture reference, I'm working on a Will Levis profile right now, and it includes, I think, some quote from Role Models, the movie.
Love it.
While I'm in the middle of typing, I start just like typing out the quote, and I'm like, this seems wildly inappropriate for what I'm typing, and I'm like, but it makes sense to me, so that should be enough, right?
Role Models is another one of those underrated movies. That's such a good movie.
Oh, I just remember. So yeah, it's referencing how Will Levis is built like a brick shit house. So I'm like, he is. So I don't know how better way to say that other than the way they said it. So let's just say they said it. So
yeah.
But
I love that.
No, it's always it's very fun just to kind of figure out your own way of like, anyone can type it any different sort of way, but it's like what is unique and what kind of keeps someone coming back if they do. But like you said, it's, you know, we do it for joy. So I mean, if we enjoy the process and kind of flexing those writing muscles, then why not keep doing it?
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of flexing those muscles, I know as we briefly talked about you being a Patriots fan, what are your thoughts on the 2022 season for the Patriots and how all that concluded.
Can I swear?
Absolutely, as much as you need to.
They fucking sucked, man. That was fucking terrible. It was brutal. Which I'll say as a Patriots fan, I actually appreciate. And this is going to be really messed up, and I get it. And I hate Patriots fans. I hate what I'm about to say. I, am 33, I think, or maybe 34. Hard to keep track. Anyway, I kind of like got into football as the Patriots were dominating.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. So like I liked football before, but like I really started getting into it. More like maybe like 2007 and stuff like that. But the 2001 season and on. So I loved that so much. And it was an unrealistic expectation of what a football team or any sports team should do. And like I used to get mad at other New Englanders that are like, oh, I think we're going to win this year. It's like, there's no way we're going to win. That's an unsustainable thing. So anyway, this is, again, kind of a jerk thing to say, but I kind of appreciate being in the muck because it gives you perspective. But ultimately, I think that they played bad. Their defense was pretty good, but I don't know why they were spending the money they were in doing the things they were doing on offense. Like we talked about the two tight end sets. I guess maybe that was a reasonable gamble, but Jacoby Myers, we both like him. It sounds like from what we were talking about, but it's like he's probably a wide receiver 3 on a lot of teams in the AFC East. Like he's a good 2. He's a good wide receiver 2 on a team.
Yep.
But I don't think that they are doing a lot on offense to be successful. Mac Jones is fine. I have no, ill will. Bailey Zappi, same thing. You kind of get excited about the unknown. But we're in a purgatory, which is fine. I think that the moves that they made were pretty good, compared to some other seasons. But like it'd be nice to get it's like the last time we had a stud wide receiver, from a traditional wide receiver, standpoint was like Randy Moss. Like Julian Edelman was awesome. I love him. But he's not, you look at some of the other teams making these big acquisitions. I mean, we were talking about Miami earlier, and like Mike Gesicki. He's like the 4th best receiving option on the team.
Yep.
They got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, all that stuff. So it's a little bit like you almost want them to make a splash just so you have something to hope for, even if you don't, get what you want. But I am kind of glad in a way to be humbled, as kind of mean as that sounds.
That is a tremendous perspective because, I mean, even you mentioning kind of the beginning of like, you're like real building up the fandom of being a Patriots fan, like that your main perspective is, well, I mean, we're just going to win, right? And just the success that dynasty had, because it can, at least in my lifetime, that's one of the most notable teams of any sport that I can think of that can be easily called a dynasty. But, with Tom Brady leaving, and then it was figured out, all right, well, now we have to figure out, all right, was it Belichick? Was it Brady? Who was the one doing it? And it's like, I mean, they did it together. It was a lot of good fortune. It was, a lot of things kind of fell into line.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that, with O'Brien, an actual offensive mind as the offensive coordinator, maybe stabilize Mac Jones, the offense keeps doing what they're doing. That defense is pretty stout. And I kind of feel like they're like the Saints in a sense of like they always have at least a very good defense, if not great. And it's just kind of like when they have that offense that's turning, it allows them to really propel themselves to the top of the division, or at least second. So I'm very excited to see what they do this year. Obviously, what they do in the draft. Hopefully, Matt can turn it around. Belichick's a great mind. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you trust he'll put his people, including his coaches, in the best position to succeed because he doesn't want to look like a fool. And I mean, the other year it was him taking Cam Newton and just saying, yeah, we'll figure it out. And
I like that gamble. I like that. Yeah.
Well, I know we're already a little bit in the offseason. We mentioned a couple of those free agent acquisitions. What would be your ideal blueprint for, I guess, the remainder of the Patriots offseason? Maybe a trade or free agent they haven't signed yet, or maybe in the draft saying who you'd really want them to beef up with that.
So I'm gonna go for the home run here. There was a story that Meek Mills texted Robert Kraft and said, "Let's get Lamar in here." And he deflected to say that's Belichick's move. Getting Lamar Jackson would be unreal. That guy is a stud. He's been undervalued, I think, by the league. I would love to see Lamar Jackson on the Patriots. Beyond just being a Patriots fan, I think it's fair to say, like you said it, Bill Belichick is a great football mind. Seeing how someone like a Bill Belichick can utilize someone like Lamar Jackson and kind of even shift the offense to accommodate that, I think that in itself, like as a pure NFL fan, even if you don't have any fandom, would be just like a really interesting experiment. So, swinging for the fences, I got to say Lamar Jackson coming to the Patriots would be awesome. That would be sick. Unrealistic. I'm hoping for it, though.
I love that. I've always loved just the connection of the Meek Mill, Robert Kraft. I'm like, they make it sound like they just like are just frequently texting each other like, "Hey, what's up, Bob? Hey, what's up, Meek?" Like it just seems so casual. And I'm like, I could see Meek Mill actually being like, "Hey, yeah, hey, Bob, you maybe need to go ahead and get this Lamar Jackson guy." It's like, yeah. Meek, I know who Lamar Jackson is. Okay, I got it.
I love it.
But, yeah, and I mean, a lot of the stuff that has, I guess it's mysterious. I guess it's a lot of behind the scenes of, is it owners colluding? Is it they don't, they've, of course, no owner would want to replicate the Deshaun Watson deal just for the sake of the sheer dollar amount guarantees and all that. But is that even what Lamar's going for? Is it more just getting the respect in some sort of fashion from a team? And I mean, if anything, if he wants to get out there and win, I would say Lamar Jackson going to the Patriots, arguably a very stable organization, even in the lesser seasons, still doing pretty well. Them being able to get Lamar Jackson, honestly, he already had, his wide receiver rooms in Baltimore since the beginning of his career they're pretty rough to watch. No offense to Devin Duvernay and all those guys, but being able to go to the Patriots and you immediately have someone like Juju, you have a weapon like Mike Gesicki, you have a stable running back core, so you have stable defense. So I would love to see that happen. He's got to go somewhere. I kind of feel like he's just going to get boxed in to stay in Baltimore, but at a certain point, it's like, when do they realize? I think he might just dig his feet in and not play. Like I could see him being someone who just makes it very difficult for them, but I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, and I would be on his side. Like these guys sacrifice their health, mental and physical health. A lot of these players are in crazy pain at age like 50. Like it's a really big deal. So I respect the hell out of him for kind of wanting a guaranteed contract. If you look at I think Deshaun is objectively probably not a great person, and he got this guaranteed contract. Whatever, that's all alleged and everything. But Kyler Murray got this big contract. I think, in my opinion, you get someone like a Lamar. Is he a guaranteed Super Bowl winner? No. But I mean, what are you doing outside of that? Look, the Patriots aren't winning the Super Bowl this year. I'm a Patriots fan. There's no way. There's 0% chance. The Patriots win the Super Bowl this year. If you gamble on a guy like Lamar Jackson, yes, you're gambling on your future. But you have to take risks in order to try to be in a position to win a Super Bowl. That's a fact. That's just how the world is.
Yep. And Jeff, what I'm hearing is immediately after this, you're going to go ahead and put a wager on the Patriots winning the Super Bowl this year. Because you said they're not, and you're like, but I know they can.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, rounding this out, last question for you. I know we talked a bit about your writing, and I always like to get people's opinions on what to do, but also what not to do. That's sometimes maybe more important. So what would you say is the number one thing not to do as, say, an up-and-coming fantasy football writer, something to avoid maybe?
So it's a great question. And I mean, my perspective, take it with a grain of salt, is, I guess, Twitter is a big platform for fantasy football. I think that's a lot of the ways that people make connections or get a name for themselves. Obviously, there's other ways, but Twitter, as an example, and applies to other things, is kind of act like you would, in public if you're making relationships with people. Like, people want to follow you if you're a friendly person that's kind and, funny or whatever. Like, you're just interacting with people. You're just being a cool guy or girl. So to me, I think it's just being genuine. I also think that people that try to slam dunk on other people. Like sometimes you'll see someone with a lot of followers that try to quote tweet and try to put someone else down that has a lot fewer followers. I think that's a cheap move. And I think people kind of see those things where that's cool if you get like a bunch of likes right now. But I mean, I don't know. It's indicative of who you are as a person in a way. So to me, it's just like be yourself, be authentic, which is like be kind. You know, you can make jokes, you can do whatever, but don't be a dick. And I think that's simple advice, but I don't think enough people follow it. Like, you know, people see what other people are doing on Twitter, even if you're not following that person. You know what I mean? You can see how people are reacting.
Yeah.
Also, one more quick thing in there.
Yes.
I'm not a fan of the victory laps super much. I mean, I get it. People do it. That's fine. I've done it in the past. I get it. I think people that sometimes highlight their negatives too kind of balances it out, and that's good. But if you're twisting a narrative and kind of being rude because you're in a position of having followers or influence, I think that's a negative thing.
Yeah, well, and Jeff, just so I can say it here, just so we can have it recorded, you're a cool guy.
Thank you very much. You're a cool guy too, Chew.
Appreciate you. Yeah, that's one thing about Twitter. I feel like it's, especially fantasy Twitter, because I mean, I was off Twitter for, 8-10 years, I want to say. I was just off of it like after high school or something like that. And the only reason I got back on it was specifically for fantasy football, because getting back into it, you know, in terms of, you know, aside from just Instagram and kind of marketing and letting people know about it, I was like, well, if I'm on Bleacher Report and every single thing referenced is first on Twitter, I should probably just save myself like 6 minutes and just get on Twitter and hear it from Tom Pelissero first or whatever else. And was immediately flooded with, you know, the sheer number of people on fantasy Twitter, the different personalities, the different groups, the different podcasts, the different whatever. And very much like what you said, you know, people that amass followings, that it kind of just is, you know, not necessarily clout chasing, but it's more of like they amassed a following because people are interested in what they say. But it's like, yeah, but if they're interested in maybe the more negative stuff, it's like that doesn't really like perpetuate, you know, the fantasy football community in a good way. But I've definitely also seen, regardless of follower numbers, you know, those people that are just the good people, you know, regardless of personality, they tend to just ascend in a very natural way. Like the following they have is every single person that follows them, they've probably interacted with at some point, and they really like that person. So I think that's more indicative of, you know, the people that you have with you versus, oh, I've got, you know, tens of thousands of followers, but, you know, they probably just follow me because I slam dunked on somebody a year ago or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's like, people, the big names that are on there, like my bosses that are big deals. I'm just a little fanboy, but my bosses that are the big deals, they're just like genuine dudes. You know, like you interact with them. I had interacted with them. I had a DM back from like 2000, I don't know, 16 or whatever. I didn't really use Twitter that much until I got into fantasy football as well. But those guys they're just genuine, and like it just comes off. You know, people can tell. So a lot of great people out there. It's a great community. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a fun thing to be a part of, and if you're nice and you produce cool stats or have funny jokes or whatever, like, you know, people tend to like that.
Well, you're not wrong. And Jeff, you are a man of so many words. Many of them are hilarious, but the guest always gets the final word. And this can be, of course, a plug, a shout out, a quote you've got on your mind, a cheers. It's rarely used, an insult if you want to throw it someone's way. It might be a negative thing, as you were mentioning with Twitter, so maybe don't do that. But anything you got for final words?
I'll tell my son's favorite joke. He came back from school one day and told me this, and I thought it was cool because it wasn't just a random punchline, which is most of his jokes. No offense, but it's why wasn't the pirate able to finish the alphabet? Because he got lost at sea.
Oh, that is a good one. I like that. I was thinking hook something, but yeah.
Yeah, but no, thank you very much for having me on, man. I started interacting with you recently. I know you just joined Twitter like a year ago, but I love your content, love the logo, your brand, everything. Very much appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much, Drew.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Jeff, and looking forward to a couple more high school nicknames.
Love it.
See you, buddy.
See ya.